I'm Carey Stinson, and my journey through life has been quite an adventure. For over 20 years, I played Barney the dinosaur on tour and 7 seasons of the hugely popular TV show Barney and Friends. Now my journey is to bring together friends and guests from all over the entertainment world for inspiring and at times amusing behind-the-scenes conversation. I'm Carey Stinson, and this is Purple Roads. Welcome to another episode of Purple Roads. I'm Carey Stinson, and this is such an exciting week. We have Didi Conn. You know her probably from Grease and Benson and Shining Time Station. Didi, how are you?
I'm great. Hello, Carey. Stacy Jones, Shining Time Station. Try to say that 5 times fast.
I guess you had a lot of practice doing that.
I had a lot of practice, a lot of coffee. Stacy Jones, Shining Time Station.
Well, first of all, how are you doing with everything going on?
Well, this has been quite a challenge on many, many, many levels. I mean, it seems like no matter what good kind of road you get on in terms of a schedule or feeling okay or exercising, there's something always tugging at your heart. You know, you can't help it when you read the paper and see how many people have gotten sick and died and yeah. So it's like something always there, you know, that informs how we feel. I found that very early on. I started to read all my son's favorite books out loud. And I put it on, I don't know, somebody put on Instagram, I think, maybe one of my sister-in-laws or something. But that helped, you know, it helped me because my son lives in the most blessed place. It's called the Center for Discovery. And it's a home for people with disabilities. And it runs the gamut, mainly 300 residents, good 200 or so have multiple handicaps or in wheelchairs. So the fact that they had to be very, very fiercely cautious. So he was quarantined up there, and I was missing him. So I've just read all his favorite books, and that helped. But yeah, no. How about you? How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good.
This is actually, it's funny enough, been such a great outlet. Doing Zoom and being able to talk to people. It's a little strange at first, but it's been a wonderful experience.
Yeah, it seems like people are much more forgiving now with, you know, performing on this YouTube channel or on Zoom, because there is a delay or this and that can happen, and we're watching our newscasters at home and, you know, the talk show hosts at home. So it's become, you know, in a sense realer, you know, which is, it's good.
Yeah, it really is, and it's. I think it comes down to the content, right? It really just comes down to, I think we're getting away from all the technical difficulties and just enjoying conversation.
Yeah, that's good. It's true. It's true. Nice to see you, dear.
Well, it's good to see you. I'm trying to think what year it was that we met for the first time, but you came to one of the Barney shows.
Well, gee, I don't know. I mean, you must have been in New York doing it. Did you come to New York a
We
lot?
did. We were up in New York with your friend and my friend, Barry Pearl.
Yeah, my duty.
Yes, and my Professor Tinkerpot.
Right, right. Gee, I don't know. I don't remember what year that was. I would have to see a picture of my son to know how old he was. But he really loved that show.
Well, I really loved the show you were on, Shining
Yeah.
Time Station.
You know, I keep meeting these really handsome, you know, early 30-year-old guys. And all of a sudden, they have this look in their face. Were you Stacy Jones? Because they were fans of the show when they were like 3, you know. And it's really had a lovely following. You know, the Thomas the Tank Engine stories, just the stories, were on for years in England. And Britt Allcroft got the rights to it and decided to make a show that could, those little episodes of Thomas and the engines could have, you know, a home within a regular format of a TV show. So that was my introduction to it, but it's big hit all over the world.
Right.
You know, now they show just the Thomas the Engine stories, but I used to do a lot of opening up of toy stores, Toys R Us, Carey, this place, and they would be selling the Thomas trains and signing autographs. And I'll never forget this one kid. He was so sweet. He wouldn't leave my side. And his father said, "I'm sorry." I said, "No, it's fine," you know. And he was sitting on my lap. I'm signing. He was just sweetest kid. And finally, the father said, "You don't understand. He loves you. He wanted to be you for Halloween." I said, "Oh God, okay, fine with me." But no, there's real diehard Thomas fans, and you know, when I auditioned, I had been doing movies and a couple of television series, you know, and I had just moved back to New York because I thought, well, I have a little bit of a name. Now I could do theater, which is my first love. And I got an audition for that. And you know, I also was doing a lot of commercials. So I think maybe I wasn't so sure about what it was. Thomas the Tank Engine, okay. But then they said it was with Ringo Starr. And for me to work with a Beatle, oh my God. I said,
Cool.
I don't care if it's PBS. If they don't give me a tote bag, I don't care. I don't need an umbrella. I don't need a mug. Give me Ringo, you know. And so that was quite exciting. And then George Carlin, you know, and then the film was Alec Baldwin. So
Wow.
I've got really snazzy guys.
What was it like for you? We talk a lot about this because a lot of most, if not all of us, didn't plan to be in children's entertainment at first, and we ended up in children's entertainment. We found such a special love for it. The audience, as you're mentioning, just they fall in love with these characters. What was it like for you working in children's television?
Well, my very first job, very first professional job. Well, my very, very first professional job, I was in Your Good Man, Charlie Brown, in someplace in Brooklyn, and I got a paycheck. And I said, do something I'll never forget. I was still living at home, so I thought, I'll buy a lock for my door. So I bought this lock for my door, and my mother didn't know that I put this lock on my door, and I was in there. And anyway, that's another story. But my very first professional job was in a pantomime company, and it was part of the National Theater Company. They had 11. This is Barry and Fran Weisler, and they had 11 different children's theater companies that toured all over, mostly the East Coast. And I was in their Mimika company, and it was pantomime. And I had always danced, but you know, the audition, I said, I'll just keep my mouth shut, you know, and I don't remember what I did. But
Right.
So I toured for 2 years, and we performed for schools everywhere. And I had the best time because my boss, a guy named Jack Scalisi, he had the highest standards. I mean, I had never worked before, so I didn't know that he had the high. But after, I could see that no matter what, if we travel, they tell us we're going to Virginia, and we think it's 5 hours and it's 13 hours. He'd get on that stage, and the show was exactly where it was, you know, the day before, or the night before, or whatever. Taught me what it was to be a professional. And so I love performing for children. I mean, some of these places that we went, the children had to have their little fingers on the light switches.
Right.
So we couldn't say now. So they would go now, and they go, you know, but that was, you know, performing for children is my first love. Next probably took me away from some other projects because I already had signed on. Mm-hmm. But, you know, that's how a cookie crumbles. But we had wonderful children on the show, and the writing was very good. And we ended up only doing the first year in New York. And after that was up in Toronto. Yeah, so.
And what was it like? Because I'm fascinated to know the difference between Ringo Starr and George Carlin.
Well, see, they both filmed their scenes away from us because they
Okay.
had to be in front of a green screen or a blue screen, probably green screen. Though Ringo was like an old hippie, and he even though we weren't in his scene, wanted us to be throwing lines to him. So that was fun, and he would be hanging out in his dressing room, listening to an oldie station. It was cool. It was nice. I think I was really starstruck being
I
around.
can just imagine it had to have been such a cool experience.
Yeah, it really was. And George Carlin, his wife was with him when we were filming, and she was such a lovely person. He's such a wonderful, warm, sensitive man, and he's brilliant. And the comic George Carlin
Right.
and the conductor George Carlin, two totally different, one end of the spectrum to the other. Just sweet, yummy, wonderful guy who loved his wife very much.
Did they stay to the scripts, or was there improv?
Oh yeah. Oh no, 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 not really, because it was very specific to whatever they were usually the springboard to whatever that episode was. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no, it wasn't like that. We improvised a lot. I mean, my favorite show. There were two favorite shows, and I don't know how many episodes we did over 10 years, whatever, because we did a lot of specials. One was some kind of magic dust, and I turned into Schemer, and he turned into me. That was really fun. I really liked that one. And the other one was some, again, magic dust, and I fell in love with the first person I saw, which was Schemer. So that was fun. But I honestly, I wasn't used to being the straight man. I had to be the straight man to him. So we did a lot of improvising to, set him up really good to be his. In fact, my son to this day has me make up Schemer doing bad things in the station. He'll say to me, "What does Schemer do now? What is, like, we'll be driving. So what does Schemer do? Oh, well, he's cutting the cheese. I mean, cutting cheese.
Yeah.
Which, he's what's the last one we talked? Oh yeah, he's growing fleas. I don't know, crazy things. But Brian O'Connor, he was great. I loved working with him.
So your son was a big fan of the show?
Well, he was teeny. He was very young.
But I mean, he's become one?
Well, yeah, I guess because over the years, when he was younger, I was doing specials, and he was there as a little guy. But we had Britt Allcroft and Rick Sigelkow, our producers, were just so wonderful about family. In fact, I think I was the only one who brought a child and a dog with me. But yeah, no, the scripts were fun. We had a good time.
So we kind of went forward, but let's go back a little bit. So what got you into acting? Were you just always wanted to be an actor?
Oh yeah. Well, I always danced. I mean, I was like the entertainment. There was a lot of, shall we say, friction between my parents, who ultimately got divorced. But if I was dancing, then everybody, oh, look at Didi, that kind of thing. And my mom used to direct community theater, but I have an older brother and two younger brothers. My older brother was always her favorite and was in all the shows. So, but I always knew, I mean, I think it was my fourth grade teacher, Mrs. Rothstein, who, instead of writing a book report, she gave us an option to do whatever we wanted. So people were artists, drew paintings or whatever, we could write a book report. But I read Pippi Longstocking, so I made a play. And I played all the parts, and of course I played Pippi. Pippalata, delicatessen, window shade, macaroni, Longstocking. And so then I had to do it in all the fourth grade classes of PS 193, And it was, that was what I did, and made up stories, and always performing with my cousins when they come over on Sundays. But so I think I always knew. My teacher in 7th grade, 8th grade, they wanted me to go to high school performing arts. My parents wouldn't let me because we lived in Brooklyn. And at that time, it was before they renovated 42nd Street, and
Wow,
restored
yeah.
it, cleaned it up. And it was the high school performing arts, I think it was on 46th Street or something. So I'd have to get out at 42nd Street, and they just wouldn't hear of it. And I was constantly asking them to send me to Russia to go to dance school there, and they never taken me so seriously, though I meant it,
Right.
because I remember reading a dance magazine. You don't have to take math, you don't have to take science, you can just dance all day long, it's like too good to be true. So I was chomping at the bit all through high school. I was in all the plays, blah blah blah. And then they didn't trust me because it was hippie time to go away to college. So I went to Brooklyn College, and I took all the classes, acting classes I could. And then I heard about AMDA, American Musical Dramatic Academy, and that was a 2-year program, acting, singing, dancing. And so I left college to do that. And after 6 months, it was summer, and they said, well, you guys should all go audition. And that's when I auditioned for that pantomime company. So I did that for 2 years. And then I wanted to go back to AMDA because I always did musicals, and I wanted to really learn to sight read and to, sing, really understand my voice, But that school had gone downhill at that time. Now it's back up again. But then, and a friend of mine there said, Didi, you should see my agent because there's all these comedic commercials now, and just go and see Ann Wright. Here's her number. Just go up there and tell her Iris Margolis told. So I went up there, but at the door there was a sign, do not enter under penalty of death, wild
Right.
guard dogs inside,
Right.
vicious, don't open the door. But I went in and they said, excuse me, do you have an appointment? I said, well, Iris Margolis told me to come. She said, but you have to have an appointment. I said, but Iris told me to see Ann Wright. And this woman stuck her head out the door and she said, what kind of voice is that? Do you really talk like that? And no one had said that. And I thought, maybe because I had been doing the pantomime and kept my mouth shut for 2 years, I didn't know my voice was different or whatever. Well, she sent me that day for an A&W root beer commercial to be Betty Boop. Oh, it tastes so modern. Boop, boop, boop. And I got it. So that was the beginning of doing, I don't know, I did about 50 commercials that year. And then I wanted to sign. They wanted me to sign just some commercials at William Morris, and I wanted an agent. So they said, "Well, be in a play, get in a play, and we'll see you." And sometimes luck happens, and it was a very good role for me in a play at New Dramatists that a friend's cousin wrote, and they all came and signed me up. And then my agent for television was leaving New York to go to California. Then my television agent, Marty Litke, was moving out to California. And so then all of a sudden, I had never thought about television or film. It was always theater. But why not? And I was with my boyfriend, and I went out there. And then I, got a lot of work. Worked pretty steadily for about 14 years. And so, yes, to answer your question, I always knew I wanted to act.
Well, it's fascinating listening to it that it seems like in your early career, you there's dancing, and then there's singing, and then there's theater, and then there's pantomime, and then commercials. So you became, it seems like, pretty well-rounded very early in your career.
Yeah, well, I never studied acting, and until I was in LA, and I thought someone recommended, to study the method, and it was the worst thing I could do because, and this is what I tell everyone, it's good to study, and it's, there are teachers and there are teachers, but very few teachers tell you. And I was just listening to Mandy Patinkin talking to an actor, to his fellow students, because he went to Juilliard. He was doing an interview, and he said it to them, and I'm going to say it to you now too, is that you learn all these techniques to use when you need it, meaning that when you're doing 15 takes of the same scene and they break for dinner and you come back and it takes an hour for them to set up the lights and you have to pick it up from where you were before, you have some tools in your toolbox that you have practiced and learned and know how to. For instance, when I worked a lot, I used to, if a photo evoked a certain emotion or a song was another specific emotion, I would write that down, and I had a file with all these different emotions so that if I needed to, I could just take that out and help me, like, to prime the pump,
Yeah.
So, yeah. So anyway, that's, the film wasn't something that I thought I was going to be doing, but now things happen.
Well, and then this big thing happened. You ended up in this little movie called Grease.
Yes, that was great. Barry's so wonderful. He remembers every bit of everything, and every year we get an announcement. Today's the day we found out we got the part. Today, he's so great.
Yeah. Oh, I just love him to death. I traveled on the road with him for years, and he's just such an amazing guy. And yeah, I love that he seems to remember everything from those days.
Yeah.
What was your audition like?
Oh, my audition.
Remember? Yeah, your audition.
They told me that I had to come looking like the role and to go pick up my script at Paramount. And I went there, and at Paramount, they have a guard at the gate, and you drive up, you say your name, and he hands you an envelope, and you turn the car around. And he hands me a skinny little envelope. So I thought, this can't be the script, So at that point, I used to get scripts, not just what they call sides, just a page. And sure enough, it was just one page, men are rats, worse than that, the fleas on rats. What's this? So I asked the guy, I see some nice thick envelopes. Could any of those be the whole script of Grease? Meantime, there's a whole bunch of cars behind me honking, And he said, pull your car around. So I did. And I actually went under his desk and read up to that point so I would know what happened,
Right.
And I saw that Rizzo was a better role. No, not just kidding. But I saw, oh, okay, this is why she's saying this to him. Oh, okay, good. So now, next thing I had to do was, get some kind of hairdo. So I figured if I'm an aspiring beautician, I'd have some do. And as luck would have it, I'm going down, I don't remember the street now, I think, I don't know, not La Cienega, Laura Canyon or something, a street I hadn't gone down before. And what do I see on the corner? Frenchie's Beauty Parlor. I said, oh boy, all right, I'm going in there. And there was a little Frenchie, big hair, like 3 cans of hairspray hairdo. And I didn't tell her I had an audition. I just said, oh, wow, how'd you do that? Could you do that with my hair, And she did. She did a big do. Then I went to Western costumes, and I got some tight pants and a little scarf and sweater. And went in, and I remember going in, and there were Joel Thurm was the casting, and Alan Carr and Randall Kleiser and Pat Birch, which is the choreographer. They were on a couch, and I said, "Hey, hi, how you doing?" And I mean, I really, and they said, now I didn't know this. They told me the minute I opened my mouth, I had the role. They didn't tell me. It would have been nice if they had told me it, but they didn't. So then I read the thing, and then they said, anything else? I said, well, can I read for Rizzo? They said, no, get out of here. Then you go for a dancing business. And that I didn't like, because there was so many people there, like 200 people in a big sound stage, teaching you to do stroll, I think it was. And they would go around and whisper people that they could leave. And there were people you knew that you saw on TV that, well-known people. I didn't like that one. and also for some reason, when everybody in the stroll was going this way, I'm going this way. And I couldn't figure it out. And they took a break, and I went up to Putsy. Kelly was assisting Pat Birch. I said, I must be counting wrong. Why am I going? He says, yeah, I noticed that. Just count that. Okay. Again, I do it wrong. Well, cut to when we did that scene. Next time you see, Barry and I are going this way. Everybody's going that way because Pat Birch came up to me and said, you know, at the audition, you were only one going the wrong way. Do that. So you never know, right?
You don't. That's so funny.
Yeah. And then they got us in groups. And another day, there were about 8 guys for each role and 8 girls. And then all of a sudden there was just us. Without Stockard, she wasn't there yet. She came later.
It's funny. I'm hearing a theme already that you know, we talk about on this show too, about getting used to hearing no and the things you go through with auditions and stuff. And it seems like you have just kind of found a way to follow your instincts and kind of find these auditions and find your way into these jobs.
Well, I think one has to find that in themselves if they're going to pursue a career. You have to get beyond your ego and listen to the little voice in your head. Some people call that voice your soul or your spirit, or some people call it God, But when I listen to that voice, that little voice in my head is usually right. But if you don't listen to it, you end up in troubles. And that some people call that God, that's your soul speaking, telling you. And in the last few years, I've gotten into meditating, and it's really helped to quiet, even to just say, let me hear you. Let your voice be so clear to my perception, there could be no error, and bring me into harmony with all that you desire. So that's what
I think that's so important. When did you start? It sounds like you started listening to that voice early.
I always listen to it. Then I stopped. Without getting into details, this business can kick in the ass, and it be difficult. And there was a period of time where I didn't listen to it because I was feeling well. Shall we just say Me Too movement? I had a very horrifying experience. And now with this Me Too movement, and hearing so many actresses talk about things that really happen, but feeling that they can, and I can't tell you how healing this has been for me. So yes, I'm back to listening to my voice.
Well, I think that's been an amazing, the turn that's happened. And
oh my God.
Really an amazing thing.
Well, if you think about it, that crack in something established, in terms of what rights certain casting people thought they had, or directors, or in all the facets of entertainment business, having respect for someone's private person, that was the opening. Now with Black Lives Matter and with the consciousness of racism, of really what it means, what's happened in the past 400 years,
right.
And how do we change that? I think one opened the door of the other. Was like the trim tab on the back of a big boat. The little thing can move the whole ship. And I think it's all for the good. And having this coronavirus business has given everybody a pause to think about this, to try to grapple with it. It's so
well, and I think realizing we're all in this together. I think sometimes we fight too much when we are starting to realize how we need to all work. We need each other.
Yeah, well, yeah, and we need leadership that pulls everybody together. So
Yeah, you know, I feel very fortunate because I didn't work in Hollywood. You know, Barney was done in Texas.
Oh, right, that's right.
So we were kind of our own little separate world.
Yeah.
And so I think I was very fortunate. We had a cast and a crew that really everyone kind of saw the message we were going through, and everyone really believed it, and everyone, I think, really respected each other, and there was a lot of love for each other and what we were doing. And I am always just feel like I'm so blessed to have worked.
What was your schedule like?
Well, I toured for 10 years, and I did I was out on the road for 5 of that, 9 months out of the year. And then when I did the TV show, so we did rehearsals on Monday, cast and crew, and then we shot through 2.5 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, half day Thursday, and then Friday was dance rehearsal. I think you know this, but there was one person in the costume, and then there was someone else doing the voice. So the voice was doing a table read, and I was doing dance rehearsals. And then we all met that up on Monday.
Wow.
So, and we had, we had kids and all the things you're not supposed to have, kids and animals and costume performers. We had all of them.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah, it's such an incredible experience. So I know you've done a lot with autism. We have a lot of Barney fans are autistic, and it has been such an amazing experience seeing that fan base. We saw them on the road, and we're seeing them now. What has your experience been with that?
Well, we adopted my son at birth, and when he was about 2.5, he began to have extraordinary tantrums that would last forever and ever. So this is in the dark ages of diagnosis. Our pediatrician out of it, but it was definitely something wrong, and so you're thrust into a whole other world. At that time, there weren't resources, and what I'm so grateful for is Autism Speaks, and I'm a spokesperson for them, because now anybody in the last 10 years, 15 years, anyone who gets a diagnosis has a place to go to get some answers, to get resources, to all kinds of resources and support. So that's great, because it didn't exist then, and also it wasn't covered by our insurance, and we were going to every kind of specialist, and he was finally diagnosed at 3.5 with head of what's her name is Isabel Rappin. She's the head of neurology at pediatric neurology at Einstein here in New York. And they, you go to try to claim some support from insurance companies, say, oh, it's a psychological disorder. But it's not. It's, this is the brain, the wiring. So it's been 100% of my heart and soul and brain into it. My son is 28 now, and he does things. He's living on a farm and working there and doing things that, I never would have thought he could do. And we found this fabulous reading therapy that he's actually reading now. I mean, basic, but he's reading,
Right.
So you learn, I think, why kids love Barney and why they love Shining Time Station is because the kids on the spectrum especially, is because it's gentle, and there's no big loud noise surprises. There's nothing that's going to unexpectedly jar them. Both come from just a natural sweetness. Barney was sweet, good, you know. And same thing with the trains, you know, they have emotions, but it's what, you know, it's what, it's nothing is going to shock them, because if you think about it, if you have extraordinary sensitivity, you're going to shut down because you're afraid you're going to get shocked. That's how hard it is. So we did lots of sensory integration therapies and all different kinds of therapies. And he's on medication because he's very volatile, but you know, low doses. And he's living with 4 other men and this farmhouse and working there. So we are fortunate, we are blessed. But I think other than that gentleness of both shows and the heart of both shows, you know, I think there's such a sweetness. You can tell a person who is on the spectrum. You look at their hands; they're very soft, sweet, like childlike hands. And I think that's the part that stays childlike in them.
Yeah, and don't you also think that the fact that, I think what was so great about kids TV and your show and Barney's show, our show, is that they didn't treat them any different.
Right.
They were just like everyone else. I get that a lot from fans.
Interesting.
That make that point that, yes, I'm autistic, but that doesn't hold me back.
Yeah.
They don't want to be treated any differently.
Right.
And I think those shows did that. They treated everyone equally.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Well, interesting that you bring this up, because this brings us full circle till now, because I really couldn't go to LA, do a series, do something like that, because of when Danny, my son, was home. Gosh, it's been like about 10, 11 years already. But I started to, you know, because he likes stories so much, we started to make up a story together. And he also has this obsession with pet stores, my son, and veterinarians. So we made up an idea of a family. The father is a holistic veterinarian, and they can't say no to a stray because we've always had millions of pets about. And anyway, just kept developing. And I pitched it to a friend of mine. Actually, it came about where she asked me if there was something I wanted to do. I was doing a voice on, I think it was the show Stanley, which was a show that was on an animated series that Disney had. And she asked me, a lovely person, Paula Rosenthal, if there was something I wanted to do. And I said, you know, I just make of a Danny Kaye album called Mommy, Give Me a Drink of Water. And it was all from a 5-year-old's point of view. And I gave her the album, and the composer's a guy named Milton Schaefer, and they're wonderful songs. Barbra Streisand recorded I'm 5, I'm a big girl now, I'm 5, I can just myself. That's a couple of the songs have been recorded, and Danny Kaye performed it. So I did it all from a 5-year-old little girl's point of view. So we made that the little Didi the star of this little show Danny and my son and I were making up. And we were seeing it as an animation. Well, one thing led to another, and I got a deal at Disney to develop it. And one of the things that happened while I was writing it, my writing partner was in LA, and we used to talk on the phone. And in what we would call the pilot episode, little Didi finds a puppy and she wants to keep it, you know. And of course the parents call the shelter, and at the very end, the shelter guy comes, and she's about to give it when the doorbell rings, and it's a mommy with a little boy with this lost puppy sign, which she and her friend had put up. Well, just at that moment, when I was talking to my partner, Barbara, I said, Barbara, that little boy's not talking. We hadn't thought about having an autistic kid in the show or anything. And so little Didi says, "Hi, I'm Didi," and he doesn't talk. And his mother says, "Oh, well, JT doesn't have a lot of words, but this is JT. I'm so and so." And all of a sudden, and she's, "Oh, okay, great. Come on, let's play." So it was total acceptance. It just happened organically. And Disney said, "Great." And then Disney said, "Well, we can introduce that character later on." And no, that's the whole point. The whole point is this: I'm doing this with my autistic son,
Right.
but I didn't have to explain it to them. And they wanted to change some of the music because the concept, because I'm married to David Shire, composer extraordinaire,
Yes.
that we make each episode a mini musical comedy so that we're telling the story through the songs. And they wanted it to sound a little more Disney-fied. So anyway, I let that pass. And then Amazon was really interested. And we did a development deal last year with them. Everything takes so long, takes forever.
Right.
No, it was the year, no, it's not last year, it's 2 years ago, because what happened was we were this close, it was down to telling us we had it, everybody, that we're going to go on. And Sesame Street added that autistic character to their roster. And it happened to get a lot of negative feedback from parents with autistic kids and parents without it. Just the way they presented it, that Amazon changed their mind, that it was too controversial. And I couldn't believe it.
Oh.
So right now, where it sits is PBS is interested. But with the coronavirus, we haven't been able to take the meeting that we had set up for December. But anyway, we will, it's going to happen. I've been getting some ideas about making it maybe even a full-length musical. So, for animation. But the point is, the idea of including an autistic child just was an organic, natural thing. And I think only because I'm a mother of an autistic kid that's how it evolved. Because I had a meeting with Sesame Street when I first had the idea. Someone knew someone, and she loved it. And she said, "We should really do this on our show." So I said, "Well, why don't Elmo come visit little Didi and you can introduce it that." So there was definitely an interest, just took their time over like 8 years before, so.
Well, isn't that interesting how I don't think people understand sometimes the creative side and the business side, and that's usually why it takes so dang long.
Oh yeah, even to make a contract with Disney took, and then Amazon, I think it was like 8 months just to make a contract, But in the process, though, I met a wonderful company, an animation company. They did a show called Peg Plus Cat on PBS, award-winning show. And Jen Oxley is one of the owners of the company. She's fabulous. So with all that happened, she's the one I would like to go ahead with to do this. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, it seems like the way you've managed your career, I can't see any way this won't happen.
Oh, thank you, darling. I know we were so close. I couldn't believe it. And the thing was, I just, we actually made a demo. Mm-hmm. I raised $500,000 and we made a demo from producers in Broadway because it's something fresh to do it like a, little musical.
Right.
So I made everybody equal partners, which is pretty stupid, but live and learn. So I want to pay them back, it's been over 10 years, but I am going to pay them back. Next time we talk, I hope.
I can't wait to talk about little Didi. Well, it's funny you say that because, and I don't know if you know this story, but the only reason Barney happened was because Cheryl Leach, who created its father-in-law, paid for it.
Yeah.
He took it to his company, and the board turned it down.
Yeah.
And he ended up, and of course they look pretty stupid for doing that. And he ended up believing in it, and There's so
Yeah.
many reasons why that show should have never have happened.
But you see, because she owned it, that's why I was trying to do that, have somebody buy it from me. That was the advice. Yeah. Same thing was the Wiggles were like that. They owned it. And then, yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see.
Well, and it's, don't you think it's a lot harder these days? I mean, there wasn't as many kids shows back then to where they are now.
Well, it seems like, yeah, but it seems like there's different venues. I mean, I think I could have gotten it on Hulu or when Hulu first started, but now I wanted, I was going for PBS or I wanted it Amazon,
Right.
I wasn't as open-minded to realize all these channels are going to be needing,
Content.
content, yeah. But I feel good about the PBS one because they're really wonderful people and they love Jen and her company because Peg Plus Cat was so great. So.
Well, obviously PBS was very good to us, and so I'm a huge fan of PBS.
Yeah, but you were with which channel? Was it Texas? A Texas?
Well, we were national. I mean, we were with Connecticut, CPTV.
Oh, that's what you were with. Oh, okay.
It's an amazing story, which we've actually talked on this show before. And the short of it is the daughter of one of the programming directors rented one of the Barney videos for a sleepover. And he was so fascinated that all the kids couldn't stop watching this show. He called down found out, about the production and called down to Texas. And we ended up coming from Connecticut.
That's fantastic.
So
that's great.
It's such a crazy world on how these shows become successful.
Yeah, it's true. Well, my friend, this was pretty cool.
Well, thank you so much. It's just been such a pleasure having you on here. Can you? There's no way you can sum it up, but all these different experiences you've had, we didn't even talk about Benson, but I loved you on Benson. And obviously, Grease has been just amazing. And then Shiny Time. What would you say about your career? Just all these wonderful places that, from starting with pantomime to where you are.
Well, my most, the experiences that were the height of the height of my career or just the most meaningful to me, I took the kookiest job, which was to stand by for Mercedes Ruehl in Lost in Yonkers on Broadway. And I had no idea what that really meant, to stand by for a leading role, which means that you're chomping at the bit to do it and somebody else is doing it. But I did go on, and then I did actually take over and had my name above the title and the whole business. That was such a great role, the role of Bella, and it was thrilling to do that. I think theater for me is the most exciting. It's it is something that immediate, the world that you create, the time disappears, the whole business. I love it. I mean, it's so rich for me, more than anything else, honestly.
Can you sing us something to end this episode?
To sing you something?
Yeah, because I called you back and you sang on your message, and I just put a big old smile on my face.
Oh, there's no one at home to answer the phone, so please leave a message at the sound of the tone. My 104-year-old aunt, that was her message. And after she passed away, I took it on. So I hope I live as long as she did.
Well, I hope you do too. Thank you so much. Stop smiling. It's been such a pleasure having you on. And obviously, I hope little Didi happens, and we'll have to have you back on to talk about it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Didi. And thank you for watching Purple Roads.
Yes.
Remember to keep your eyes, ears, and your heart open, and you'll find your purple road. We'll see you next week.